We were commissioned to do a set of 3 tables for a law firm lobby. The design and materials were selected to complement the existing space and also to have a significant visual punch. Using American black walnut with custom-made stainless steel structural components.
These are 2 1/4 inch black walnut strips that will become the laminations for the arch. So I've edged them on one side, and I am going to now run them over the joiner and planer and then start cutting them into 1/4 inch lamination strips that'll be 2 1/4 inches wide. This is taking the blanks that we just made and starting to resaw them into laminations. So, just like magic, we have 20 pieces that are going to be the laminations for the long arches for the law firm tables. And I'm going to mark a center point and then do a dry run without glue. See how it goes. Okay, I'm mid glue up on one of the arches, so here's some footage.
We use a special glue for bent laminations, which resists cold creep and has a long open time, about 30 minutes. Each lamination strip is 1/4 inch thick, and of course lots of clamps for strong uniform pressure.
One of the issues with black walnut is the color change from one side to the other dealing with the sapwood. So this is good color, a little bit of contrast. But on the other side, you see that the edges are sap. So that is too much for me, so I'm going to cut some of that out. So you end up losing quite a bit of width. And this one's pretty good. There's a couple of other big ones here. You can see the sap here. There, it's particularly noticeable. So we're going to lose some of the width of these boards. Obviously, I could leave these on the bottom of the table so you wouldn't see it, but I'll lose some of that width just because I want the color to be consistent whether you're looking from the top or the bottom, obviously. So we'll start refining this, and we'll probably lose maybe 10 or 12 inches by the time we're done.
The sliding table saw is set up in a straight line rip configuration here.
This is the sapwood and bad color that I didn't like wood cut off. I ended up losing about, I guess, about 15 inches of width from the 6-foot tabletop, which is rough calculation. It's about probably $100 worth of black walnut laying there. But now the rest of it is much clearer without the sap looking at it from either side. So that's what we're left with. Just run the edges that are going to be glued together on the joiner to make sure that they're tight. And now we're going to start the glue up process. Find where I put the glue. And lots of clamps, of course. This is not the glue with the long open time, so we've got about 8 minutes to get this all done and aligned to our satisfaction. So this is regular type on 3. We're just going to glue 2 by 2, and then we'll glue them all together after we run them on the joiner again. So we apply clamp pressure. We're going to stay level with each other. I will use different clamps. But I've got all of the other clamps already in use on the last arch, or the second to last arch rather. So we're going to use these guys because this is what I've got left. So put the first pressure on. And you'll see the glue squeeze out along the line. And it should go all the way to the edge. And then, since these have a tendency to pull them out of flat, you do a compensating clamp on top.
This is a top for one end table.
We are partway through the glue up of the big coffee table. And so we've got 2 boards by 2 boards glued together that are complementary. So this one was a single board and then had some knots in it, so I cut the center of it out and glued it back together. These are the face grains kind of complementary. I want a dark one on the outside, so this will be the bottom outside. And then here are the rest of the boards. So all these are going to get glued together. And so these are already glued together, again complementary grain, and this one will get glued, and if we do them in this sequence, then they're both of the sub-assemblies will go through over the joiner and the planer, so we can get them absolutely flush and flat before we glue the 2 of them together. And then we'll just have to be careful because then they'll be way too big. So that's what we're going to do now, is run them through the joiner and planer, get them ready to glue up into these sub-assemblies.
These are segments of arches, which will be legs for the two end tables. We will run them over the jointer to flatten the rough glue up, and then plane them down to final thickness.
This is a dry fit of the two halves of the table top, the coffee table top. There's a seam right there, which you can't see, which is the way it should be. And it's not glued together, it's just dry fit. But, so this is the first time I've seen all of the grain patterns come together. And there's a little bit of an unexpected wrinkle with this one board because the grain changed as I was planing it down to a bit thinner, but I like it a lot.
Here we cut the coffee table arch to almost final size, and then trim both legs stacked together to ensure uniformity. Here we are cutting dados into the arches, which will receive the tabletop. Just a bit at a time, as we are climb cutting, which can be fussy and hard to control, even with a sliding table. We made a jig to cut the legs for the end tables at the exact angle to sit flush. Very important for all the legs to be identical in length and angle. To make sure the arch stays in place during the cut, we use pneumatic hold downs. You can't go too slowly for this operation. The last glue up of the large coffee tabletop, using loose tenons to ensure flush alignment. We trim the ends of the tabletop using a track saw, as the piece is now pretty heavy. We begin making the stainless steel clips and structural components on our old milling machine, US made cast iron from 1975. We continue using the mill to prepare the walnut center blocks for threaded inserts. The first coat of urethane finish is applied and creates the always magical transformation of black walnut. Now we drill holes to accept stainless rods, which are part of the structural clips. The center blocks with inserts get chamfered on all edges using a router spindle and bit in a heavy-duty shaper machine.
A little video clip of the various pieces. That's one of the tops on the actual top side. This is one of the tops. That's the bottom side showing the tapers. These are all of the legs with the holes drilled for the brackets. This is the big coffee table top. That's the underside. These are the legs with the dados cut for the top. And then, finally, all of the pieces, the stainless pieces that I've made, including the little corner blocks that have the inserts on each side. And so that's a lot of work right there.
The tabletop is held into the arched legs by a tightly fitting dado and glue, and yes, we did use several clamps until the glue dried. We begin assembly of the center structure for the end tables, which stayed quite loose until final alignment and locking it all down with stainless bevel washers. This is the drilling process for inserts in the legs to hold the leveling feet. A pain to do 12 times, but necessary as floors are never flat. Double stick tape comes in very handy here. Finally, the glue up of legs to the small tops using loose tenons and assembly cauls. And of course, the coffee table gets the inserts as well.
This is the finished coffee table in the studio, and you can see that the stainless steel tensioner, which I thought was going to be primarily aesthetic, is actually solid and structural at this point. It took some fussing to get it to be just, that rod to be just the right length when I tightened it up with the washers. So, and there's just that little bit of daylight there to kind of bring in that bridge aesthetic. And the grain in the top still pleases me. And then here are both of the little tables upside down with some touch-up finish work that I did today. So you need to flip them over when this coat of urethane is dry, and make sure that the top side is perfect as well. So anyway, the stainless steel turned out really nicely. And they all have inserts in the top for leveling feet, which I will put in once that finish dries.
And now for a final look at the tables, showcased first in the studio and then at their new home inside a law firm. We hope you have enjoyed watching the making of these elegant and modern black walnut coffee and end tables, featuring bent lamination arches. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and follow us on Facebook at The Noble Artisan. The Noble Artisan, handcrafted woodwork, heirloom quality.